All right, so the entire program, we have 4 modules, and today I'll be covering module 1. I'm going to walk you through what we'll be going through during the section. And for this training, our classes will be using Google Classroom, and we'll definitely share how the classroom works. All right, so today we'll be doing introduction to UI and UX design. Considering the fact that most of our students or most of our mentee are beginners, it is very important for us to at least implant the introduction in our mind, so it will help us as we try to learn more about product design. So in this module 1, which is more about more or less like the introduction, would be talking about the understanding about the difference between a product designer and then a UI UX designer, right? And also we'll be talking about the design principle and methodology, and also introduction to the design thinking process. So we're also going to be showing some case studies of design project ambience. And I could also share 1 or 2 design like online that is being done already. All right, so diving in, we need to understand the difference between a product designer and a UI UX designer. So a basic way to understand it is like if we're going to be dealing with building, like if we're going to go into like a complete house that's about to be built, you discover that there's always a conversation between the owner of the building and also the architect. And so the architect tried to understand the users or the owner of the building preference and tries to sketch based on the available land or whatever it is. And then the architect would come up with a design. At this point, the architect is free to design whatever it feels like and then present to the owner of the building. But at the end of the day, there's still someone that needs to look at the design, right, and try to bring this to life. So the civil engineers and the other aspect of people who are building, who actually brings this drawing to life, is actually going to be referred to as the product designer, right? And while the architect that focused more on how the building should look, designed the different kinds of hallway, the windows and all that. So that can be referred to as the UI, probably UX designer, right? So that's the only way I could explain this. But at the end of the day, before we finish this today's section, would be able to understand more about the product designer and the UI UX designer. Also, now who is a product designer? A product designer is a professional who is responsible for creating the appearance, functionality, and usability of the product. They are responsible for betting a product from idea to reality. You get. Also, on the other flip side, a UI UX designer, it's actually someone who deals with the user interface and also the user experience. So some people could focus more on UI, while some people could focus on both UI and UX. So it depends on the project and the team or the kind of company you're being engaged with. So a UI UX designer is tasked with the responsibility of creating digital interface that are visually appealing, functional, and user-friendly. If you look at the product designer, on the other hand, the product designer is responsible for creating the appearance, the functionality, and the usability of the product, creating the appearance, functionality, and usability of the product, while the UI UX designer is tasked with the responsibility of creating digital interface that are visually appealing, functional, and user-friendly. So you can see the keyword there is visually, things that are very visible, right? So also, a product designer is responsible for designing the overall appearance, functionality, and usability of the product, while the product designer works on the entire product development process from conceptualization and ideation to prototyping, testing, and the final project. So at the end of the day, we get to see that the product designer is really taxed more with the overall process. A UI UX designer, first a UI designer focus on the visual element of the interface, such as layouts, right? Typography, color schemes, icons, and graphical elements. While the UX designer focus on overall user experience, including user research, information architecture, usability testing, iteration design to ensure that the interface is intuitive, easy to navigate, optimized for user satisfaction. So these are the works of the UX designer. UX designer is works not just with how things look, but they try to like they go a bit further to know if the people using this product will be happy with it. How will they feel? What are the kind of people that are going to be involved with this kind of product? And then they design based on the kind of people that will be interacting with the products. So also the UI UX designer specializes in design digital interface for website, mobile apps, software applications, and other digital products, right? And a UI UX designer is not needed in the entire life cycle of a product or project, which is very, very true. And also the difference between a product designer and a UI UX designer is that the primary difference is it lies in the areas of focus within the design process and the scope of their responsibility. Product designer have like a broader focus, which we've been saying all this while. They deal on the design, physical and digital product as a whole, while the UI UX designer specializes in creating digital interface and optimize the user experience within those interface, right? So the product designer will definitely be involved in the testing process, obviously in the testing process. Yes, when the UI UX designer is like done with I know when they try to and do some designs, they try to always check with their phones and see how it's looking, check with different devices. But at the end of the day, the product designer will really go and dive deep into doing these tests properly with different kind of devices, right? As well as even going down. The product designer is also responsible to take the design a step forward. Like sometimes when the design is done, the design needs to be packaged properly, documented properly, and assigned to the development team. So the product designer, if you're going to be a product designer, eventually you should understand all the main process of packaging your designs and handing over to the development team. And also, the product designer will always communicate with the development team because sometimes they tend to update design and ask more questions and all that. So the product designer is like the main person you actually talk to for questions and maybe clarification and all that. So design principle.